Good morning, guys. Today is Friday, March 27th, and today I want to talk about our last um, note set for this week, which was the credit and loans. On your credit and loans, you just have two questions. What do you want to know about credit and loans? And then write the most important thing from today's lesson. Okay, so I went through your what do you want to know about credit and loans, and some of you might have figured out, the answers to your questions. But just in case you didn't, I want to do my best, with what information I do know in regards to credit loans to kind of clarify a few things. Okay, so the first question I saw was how to make a loan. So oftentimes, if you want to take a loan out, like for a mortgage or a car, you can go to the bank and apply for a loan. And they have you fill out paperwork, they run your credit score, they ask to see like if you bank at Fifth Third, they're able to see like your bank statements and what your checking account looks like, what your savings account looks like, what if you do direct deposit from your job, like what your typical income is. And from there, they can assess how much they are able to give you in terms for a loan. Like if you're getting a car, some of the dealerships also work with credit unions. Like for example, the Ford dealership on Colerain, they work with Wright Pat Credit Union, and you can do a loan through that. In terms of school loans, that goes through. It's called FAFSA, FAFSA, and that is a government organization. You can do school loans from that, and that is still going to ask you, like personal information about yourself and even about your parents, because at that time, most 18-year-olds or 17, depending on what age you are when you enter college, are still dependent upon their parents. So it's going to look at your parents' income, like their tax information. And if you have a job, they'll ask for your tax information as well. But your job that you are having as a high school student is not really going to determine how much they're going to offer you. It'll look at what your parents are bringing in to see how much they can offer you. Okay, because everyone's going to be different on what or how much a loan can be for you depending on your financial situation. Okay, and what is credit? I know you've probably seen the commercials on TV about checking your credit score and things like that, but credit, because there's good credit and bad credit, like some of you point out. So good credit, you are paying your bills on time, and that can be any kind of utility bill, so water, electric, even your garbage bill or your cell phone bill, paying your rent on time. That is a credit score towards you. If you pay those things on time, that's a good thing. That's a positive, because it shows that you can be that you're reliable and trustworthy to handle money and to handle like major payments later on, like paying for a car, paying for a house. Okay. How you get bad credit is when you don't pay things on time, or if you're unable to pay, like let's say you took a loan out for your car and you're unable to pay that loan back. You could default on it. So it means you're unable to do that. Okay. But if you're unable to make payments on things like your house or your car, they could be repossessed. Or like for a house, if you can't pay the mortgage, it could be foreclosed on by the bank, because technically, the loan you took out, that person owned your house. So like Wells Fargo owns my house until I pay off my mortgage. And if I cannot make payments, like if I just stop making payments, they can come back at me and foreclose, because this was my responsibility. Okay, and they can take that away. How much can you take or put into your account? So in terms of how much to take out for a loan, it depends on what you're purchasing. If you're purchasing a car, let's say it's $13,000, which I'm basing on my car, okay, because it was a new used car. If you put $3,000 down, that means you need a $10,000 loan, okay, and depending on your credit and what is your line of credit available to you. So if you have good credit, most likely you're going to get that loan that you need, um, for that amount. If your credit isn't so good, you might not get all of what you need. You might just get some of it. And in regards, someone also asked your interest rates and your time to pay back. So some loans have a 5-year plan. So you have 5 years to pay this loan back, and it is set at, it might be a 3.5% interest rate, a 5% interest rate. It just depends on what the market is doing. Like right now for home mortgages, it has dropped, I think, to 3%. That's really good. Okay, so I know maybe your parents have talked about refinancing, in which you could do that. So lowering the interest rate helps you out with payments because, and this is where all the math gets a little tricky. When you have a loan and you have, let's say you have $30,000 that you owe back, it's not going to just be $30,000 that you're paying on. It's $30,000 plus the interest that's applied. Okay, because when you make a payment, they divide that up. They put it towards the actual payment. They put it towards the interest that's already accrued. When you guys get your student loans, that'll be real fun because student loans can range from 10% to 20%. Yeah, government's really nice when they handle student loans, and it takes a little bit longer. But like if you're looking at the time for a house, you can have a 30-year mortgage in which you pay X amount of dollars for that time span. Now, it might not be a full 30 years. If you're able to make more, like add more to your payments, it will shorten the time. It just depends on your situation as well. Can you afford to pay a little bit more, or are you kind of stuck at, what you got? So it just depends on a lot of these things. And then why checking your credit score lowers it. My loan officer had explained that to me because when I was going through the process of buying a house, they check your credit score, and I went through almost buying like 3 different houses before I got this one. Every time you check it, it's kind of like a penalty against yourself. I'm not quite sure why that happens, but I think the idea is to, if you are paying things on time and making smart purchases and not like maxing out credit cards and not defaulting on loans, that would be positive towards your credit score. And I honestly don't know how to answer that question about why it's bad. I just know you shouldn't do it. Like, that's how my parents say to me. You don't go on those websites and constantly checking because then it lowers it. I don't know. Matthew, that was a great question. I don't have an answer. I need to consult my parents as well because I don't know how to answer that. And then your difference between a loan and credit. So, like, we're talking credit cards. Credit cards is supposed to be a short-term like loan, essentially. So if you're using your credit card, maybe if you're on vacation or maybe you at a restaurant, the idea of a credit card is you're going to pay that money back quickly. Okay, you're not going to let it sit and sit and sit. And compared to a loan, in which a loan is a long-term thing. So like in school, like if college is the route you're going, if you take out a loan, you don't have to pay that loan back until you've graduated college, and you have 6 months until those payments start happening. Okay, versus a credit card, if you're using that, you're expected to make monthly payments, or my advice, pay it off whenever you use it. Don't just let it linger. Don't sit there and go, it's just $100 sitting there. But $100 can turn to $150 or $170 because you also have interest on credit cards as well. And the bank can penalize you on credit cards for it's on overdraft, like your purchase fees. Yeah, I know that one. And that can range depending on your bank. Like Fifth Third, it could be a $30 fee for current purchases that you haven't paid off yet. All right, and then another question was how to use them. Well, if we're talking about loans can be applied for a car, house, or school. Loans could also be taken out, to help with other possibly big projects that, you might not have to, like if you need a new roof for your house. Like I have to ask my parents about that one because I need to do that soon. You might take a loan out for that because I'm not going to lie, some of these household things are expensive. And I know people just don't have that money laying around. I know I don't have that kind of money laying around. And then with credit cards, how you use them is up to you. I recommend use them in emergencies or use them for like super big purchases. Like I know I used my credit card to book our bed and breakfast in Asheville because that was a big purchase at that time. So I'm paying that off I wasn't going to take that money out of my checking account. I'm going to use a credit card. So it's up to you. But either way, with both those things, you have to be responsible and you have to be able to pay those back. If you know you cannot pay those back, you should really think about it before you take out a major loan or take out a credit card. And don't have like 5 or 6 credit cards out. That doesn't mean you have like all that money to spend. You still have to pay it back. If you max out a credit card, you still have to pay that money back. So if you have a $10,000 limit on a credit card, that doesn't mean you have $10,000 just to spend. You have to pay all $10,000 back. Okay? So those are things when you start, like, they're going to hit you up soon for credit cards, like to apply for them. Be careful. Okay? All right. So enough of the serious stuff. Next week, your things will be on Bonsai. So you'll get to play the games next week. All right? Here are my book recommendations because I said I'm going to Zoom people in like 5 minutes. So I'm sorry if I seem rushed. Women Who Dare, Women of the Civil War. I picked this one up in Philadelphia, or actually in Gettysburg. Michelle A. Crow. And, flipping through it, there's a lot of pictures with short pieces of information. So this would be a quick little flip to read for anybody. Okay, and then I know probably lots of you have read this, but I think it's a good book and worthwhile. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. The whole entire series is good. I was always a little disappointed at the very end of Mockingjay, but, my opinion. And I think the book is way better than movies. Movies are cool. Book's way better. All right, and then Your Today in History. On this day in 1775, Jefferson is elected to the Continental Congress. What document is Thomas Jefferson most well known for? Pretty important document. 1912, Japanese cherry trees are planted along the Potomac River. Where is the Potomac River located? So you can see these cherry trees bloom along the Potomac. But where is the Potomac River located? It's a city, a pretty big city. And 1939, your first NCAA March Madness champion. So you have to do your research there. And I know I'm really sad basketball was canceled this year, but 1939, what university won the first ever NCAA national championship? My hint to you, they are a school on the West Coast. So please don't come back at me and say like New York. That's the East Coast. The school is on the West Coast. And then your number one song, not a big Katy Perry fan, but in 2012, she had the number one was Part of Me. So Alexa, play Part of Me by Katy Perry. She's not really a good listener. Alexa, play Part of Me by Katy Perry.
Part of Me by Katy Perry from Spotify.
There you go. Again, not my favorite song. I want to run away. And watch you fly away. Okay, I kind of like it. You spit me out like I was poison in your mouth. Stuck me now. This is a part of me that you never ever gotta take away from me. Alright. Alright, guys. Some of y'all see like in a minute. Others of you keep your chins up. I will talk to you later.